thanks everybody who made it down here. Um, See out in the top level there, we got lots of people here today. No, seriously, glad you guys can make it down. We're doing a seminar. It's a roundtable. We have a couple of our fleet managers here. We got Jim Sanderson from Flint trucking up in Litchfield, Michigan. Then we got Jason Wilder from Midwest Logistics, based out of Lima, Ohio. And they have really good experience with what we're talking about, so we brought them down to share their experiences with you. But mainly what we're doing is we're not deleting any emissions, because for one, you get tagged with a big fine. It's illegal. You got to be compliant. What we're actually able to do is delete emission issues. So everybody knows for the last 15 years since they came out with Tier 3, Tier 4, there's a lot of emission problems. And a lot of guys, their answer was, well, we're going to keep old trucks, or we're going to delete it, we're going to get gliders. And, that's kind of come and gone. A lot of the shops that were doing deletes, they started getting shut down, tagged with 6-7 figure fines. So that's not really popular anymore. So guys are looking for solutions. And we've been in business over 15 years. My brother and I own the company. Clint, my name's Kurt. We own business Clean Air Fleet. And what we do is we are able to take a number 2 spec diesel fuel and make it a premium spec fuel. And we have premium filtration for fuel and oil. And we're going to get into it here and share with you guys exactly what we're able to do and the results. So that's the guys here. We got Bobby. He wasn't able to make it. Something came up with him, but Jason and Jim, and then Clint and myself. So just for a show of hands here, how many of you guys have pre-emission trucks? Anybody here? You got a pre-emission truck? Okay. What kind of truck do you got? Okay, so you got it. You got everything, yeah. So you're well versed in everything. What about 2003? Anybody got a pre-DPF truck that's got EGR only on it? I mean, these trucks are 20 plus years old already, so I get it. They're getting phased out. Then we got 2007 to 2010 DPF trucks, and then anybody running DEF trucks, 2010 or newer? Okay, so that's just what we wanted to see was what kind of trucks we're dealing with here in the crowd, what guys have. We're able to handle those. So first question we have, if you guys are aware, there's 9 states right now that are doing emission testing. Obviously we all think California is the only one that does it, right? California Air and Resources Board. In fact, there's 9 states that are doing it. California, Nevada, Illinois, and then 5 states on the East Coast. We'll get into those. And what they're doing is they're not really telling people about it until you get pulled over by DOT and you get a smoke test. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to find damaged, non-compliant trucks. Maybe the injectors are blowing too, something's going on in an injector, something's wrong with the truck, and it's blowing a bunch of smoke. So they want to get those trucks off the road. And the opacity limit is 20%. Okay, so it used to be 40%, and they just recently dropped it down to 20%. Another thing they're trying to do is find any deleted trucks or trucks that have had the emission systems tampered with. And we'll get into that, but they're giving you fines. And a lot of these states, you get a fine, you have a few months that you have to either fix the problem or reinstall your emissions and get it retested. And if you don't get it, you don't comply, you get another fine. If you get 3 fines in 4 states in a consecutive year, they'll take your registration and yank it. They're trying to weed out these old trucks. We work with all ages of trucks, but we're here to help everybody. Everyone thinks, oh, clean air. Well, that's great. I don't have an emission truck. Well, we know why you don't have an emission truck, because you don't want the problems that go with it. So we have, we can help with old trucks, medium-age trucks, and new trucks. But yeah, ultimately the bottom line is they're trying to force repairs and upgrades to these trucks, or force you to get into new trucks. Well, we all know if you ordered a truck today, when are you going to get it? they're not happening. You know, you get a DPF or a NOx sensor, you might be waiting 2-3 weeks for it, right? Everybody's familiar with that. So, you know, can you rely on the dealer to help you anymore? When you go in there and they take a NOx sensor out and they put the same NOx sensor right back in there, what are you going to do? 6 months, you're going to have the same problem. The same check engine light's going to come on. So these are the states that are actually doing this, and this is from a company that actually makes the smoke testing equipment. And, you know, they're proud to share this with you. But these are the 4 states: New Jersey, Nevada, vehicle may be taken out of service, $1,300 fine. Nevada, $1,500 fine, might be taken out of service. Illinois, your third offense, $1,000 fine. Mandatory court appearance, might be taken out of service. California, I'm sure you all love to travel down there and deliver freight. $1,800 fine, might be taken out of service. So this isn't a joke. In fact, we saw a guy the other day that posted on Facebook. He said he took a picture in New Jersey of a DOT inspection. He said, they're actually doing this. Here's proof. Because guys think, yeah, it's not really happening. I'll just go around the scale where I heard they're doing it. Well, they're starting to ramp it up. In fact, we just heard today, Jason told me that in Ohio, they're starting to ramp up where they're going to have smog testing with the state in Ohio. So it's getting rolled out. I mean, I thought up until not very long ago, it's all California. It's all California. Well, now it's across the United States, and you know, Illinois is right in the middle. What are you going to do? Drive around Illinois to get around it? So to get started on some of the results, Jim, his dad actually got started with them first. He was their guinea pig, so to speak, and he's got this 2000 Freightliner N14 with 2.5 million miles on it, right?
Absolutely.
Been rebuilt one time.
Rebuilt at 1.8 million. He's got just about $1 million on the rebuild right now.
Mm-hmm. And he program.
He's been running with the car hauler on there. He's running about 7.4 to 8.1, depending. Kind of changing where he fuels, depending on, you know, whatever weather going on the East Coast.
Well, what was he at before?
He's picked, since he did the whole program, he started on it. He got us into it, really.
Mm-hmm.
He's up about 0.4, half mile a gallon right in there. And he's old school as it's going to get. He's right at the 12,000 mile mark. He doesn't know why he's at the 12,000 mile mark, because way back when they said you change it at 12,000 miles, nobody knew why. They just did it. He's the guy at 12,500. He thinks he just blew the motor up, you know. So we've got him. He does all the oil testing, everything like that as well, third party. And we've got him pushing 30,000, 35,000 now. And the oil's fine, but he still feels he needs to dump it. And that's fine. But I guess the result, I'll go over on the weekend, help him change his CAF fuel filter. We changed it the weekend before he got that inspection. He didn't even know what it meant. All he knew is he passed. The first time they told him to floor it, he did. He left the jakes on, and he said, maybe that wasn't the thing to do. Might have threw a little smoke in there, I don't know. But so he did it 2 more times, and he come out with a report. And he called and said, hey, I just got stopped in New Jersey. No idea what they did, but they just tested the exhaust. I didn't know that they did this out here. And I said, well, I told you it starts in California and it makes its way to the East Coast. So it's hit both coasts now. Now they're going to start squeezing in. But regardless, his 4.3 is basically like a California emission standards with,
So
with an exhaust filter, right, Kurt?
Yeah, so he's a pre-emission truck, no EGR, no DPF, nothing, right? And he got a 4.3% opacity. So he called me one day and he's, hey Kurt, I just got stopped by DOT and I passed, you know. And he took a picture of this report and he sent it to me on his lap. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. You know, good deal. He's still running, because they gave him a sticker to put on his window. Yep. And Well, we started looking into it. What does the 4.3 actually mean? Well, the limit is 20%. Okay. Well, what is 4.3? That sounds pretty good. That's a fourth of the limit. And
4.3% opacity or smoke, right?
yeah, so it's a smoke test. So they're actually measuring for particulate and smoke coming out of the stacks. Yeah. And we looked up California, CARB, Air and Resources Board, and their limit now on a Tier 3, a DPF truck, their limit is 5%, right? That's their limit on any DPF truck. Well, he's under the limit of a DPF truck with no emissions, okay? So that correlates, he's burning almost 100% of his fuel, right? Because unburned fuel is hydrocarbons coming out of the stack.
Which is where his fuel mileage is coming in.
Right.
He's getting that complete burn. He runs all the additive. He has the oil filter, the fuel filter, and he's religious on the additive. And I mean, that's where I guess there's almost no room for improvement at that point for that age of truck, that N14.
Does he have APU?
He's got an APU. He has.
Yeah, idling will kill a truck. I mean,
Yeah, he's got the tri-pack, and he will not idle that truck. I know that.
Yeah, smart move.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, he's one of the lucky ones that he's well under the threshold. He's running clean. He can run that truck until he retires.
I guess in the thing too, he was doing injectors and putting reman injectors in, and it was like almost an every 2-year thing. And the same with mine. I had a 97. And it was about every 2 years we were throwing injectors in this thing. Just single fuel filter, you know. Mm-hmm. And since he put the new ones in, and they've been in there, I'm going to say 5 years now, and no issue. And that is pretty recent. I mean, as of in the last, 9 months, year?
So they pulled him over while he was driving, Jim, or how'd that work?
No, they sucked him into the scale. So they funnel you over into the scale in New Jersey, and then when they get you in there, it's kind of like Pennsylvania where they pull you in, make you stop, and then they're gonna do their thing, pull the creepers. And he's getting it all the time. He specifically runs the East Coast, so he's in Jersey, Long Island, Boston, Maine. Maine's a big one for DOT. I mean, he gets DOT'd all the time. New York, they're always on him. And so they just pulled him in, and then that's where they started smog testing. We've been in even Connecticut where they dip the fuel, checking for red fuel now. So it's, I don't know, it's a big thing. But as far as, I mean, the injectors, just since he's been on your guys' program, is money in itself, I guess, you know, and downtime. And
Sure.
And that's how I brought it to our fleet based on his results. And then we went ahead and just done our 17, 18 trucks at the time.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where Jason was talking too.
So that was, you know, that's a pre-emission truck, and a lot of times guys say, well, clean air fleet, that's the name of our company. Well, we don't care about clean air. We get that. I mean, we care about keeping your truck running. And if we can clean up the air, basically, we're lowering the soot and the NOx 30 to 50% in the combustion chamber by getting a cleaner burn, keeping the top end and the bottom end clean. So your emission system's not going to have to work as hard. We see guys right away, they say their DEF miles per gallon shot up. They're not doing any park regens anymore. I mean, we've had guys with DD15s that were regenning forced regens every morning. They'd idle all night, wake up, hit a forced regen, blow a bunch of fuel and smoke out and go down the road. It's non-existent because the root, our opinion is the root of all the problems is the fuel quality, okay? Because you get into Europe and some of these other countries where a lot of these systems were developed, they're running 50 cetane minimum spec fuel.
And they're measuring that in the lab, you know, so they're doing that on a bench test where they get all these numbers, Packard, Daimler Chrysler Group, right? So what we're doing is providing a lab type setting. You can't control the fuel you're buying, right? Because you're buying it all over the country. So what we can do is we can help alleviate, like Kurt said, our fuel in the United States, the minimum cetane is 40. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with cetane, but it's a big deal. And what we end up doing is we came up with a formula to not just reduce NOx, but all the emissions, and that's very challenging to do. And at the end of the day, water's a big issue, asphaltenes are a big issue. All of those things are gonna affect your combustion. And you get blow-by. Cummins said in 2012, they released a service bulletin that they were having carbon packing issues. Okay, very common in a Cummins engine. We have a bypass filter that's taking that soot out, right? People don't correlate oil with emission systems, but there's a huge correlation. And we see a fuel economy, Society of Automotive Engineers did a test, third party, and they saw a 2 to 8% fuel economy savings with cleaner oil because you have less drag, and now we have cleaner rings with the fuel additive and the oil, because you have two different types of soot. You have a gas soot, you have a solid soot. So we're addressing both of those. And you can't control what kind of fuel you get at Flying J, Pilot. You know, if they say they're selling a premium product, how do you know what it is? You know, do you test it when you get it? You can't control that. In the lab tests, you know, they can say they don't have any issues, you know, on the bench, that's fine. In the real world, you can't control that, and it's just an ongoing issue, and it's only getting worse from our perspective, what we hear from fleets every day. And I'm sure people in the audience have experienced some of these issues, right? So Australia's cetane's 50, Europe is 50. That's your ignition timing. So what we're doing is increasing that, we're removing the water, all these contaminants end up having an effect on combustion. And, you know, fuel economy is a side benefit. The big deal is the part shortage, no trucks, and nobody else is gonna be able to provide that right now. So we have the complete program for fuel, oil, and emissions. And all our customers see a return on investment in about 6 months. So after that, it's just icing on the cake.
So yeah, you guys, as far as what we have on the screen, you know, you've experienced, you know, that's probably why you're here, you've experienced emission issues, you know, back-ordered trucks, parts, sensors affecting downtime in your workflow. You know, how many of you get fault codes for emission systems? Ever once? Okay, show of hands, anybody? Okay, because guys will come up to us and say, yeah, I mean, I've never had a fault code for emission system ever in my life, right?
Right.
Well,
Probably NOx sensors,
yeah, I mean,
inlet outlets.
you know, so you can, you know, try to sugarcoat it all you want. I mean, really, there's nobody that's immune to it. I don't care if it's Cummins or PACCAR or Volvo, anybody. It's not, well, this one's better than this one and that one does that. I mean, if you take a truck and you don't maintain it, you're gonna have problems with it. You can, you know, so you can take a truck that's having problems and you can actually erase them just by simply upgrading the minimum spec. So we did a year-long pilot study with a FedEx fleet running all Cascadias up in Minneapolis, okay? And the owner, frankly, he said to Clint and I, he goes, I'm gonna prove you wrong. You know, I don't believe what you're saying, but the owner wants to do it because they didn't know what to do anymore. They had so many issues that they just decided, well, let's get started with it. So they went with the oil filtration, and then soon after they went with the premium spec diesel fuel. And these are pictures of trucks that were before and after. That's a DPF before, and that's a 7th injector before and after. So we didn't just prevent it from happening, we cleaned it up. You know, so it's not just preventative maintenance, which, yeah, you get a new truck, keep it new. That's the best time to ever put anything on is brand new. Keep it fresh. We're taking trucks that are 500, 600,000 miles that are on their last leg and they can't run anymore. You know, we've heard stories, yeah, they stuck $10,000 throwing sensors at it. We put your stuff in there and a week later, 2 weeks later, the truck's running great. You know, they might have gone through a bunch of fuel filters at first, flushing everything out, but we get them back to where they're running again. So they were having problems with 7th injectors. You know, once that 7th injector gets clogged like that, it's not going to spray the fuel properly, right? It's going to spit and sputter, and you're not going to get up to temperature. So you're never going to get it cleaned out. And really, all a park regen at that point is just trying to catch up. It's never going to clean it like as if you replace it or get it dipped or baked or whatever. It's never going to get it caught up. The truck can't do that. So what they said is after they implemented it and they tested it, they were saving an estimated $5,000 a month just on emission sensors and stuff. So, you know, the pictures speak for, speak 1,000 words.
They were doing 30 to 40 seventh injectors a year on the fleet, and after implementing the program, they went to basically 0 over 3 years. And same thing for your, I don't know if you guys know what the seventh injector is, I'm sure you do, but for those that don't, like Kurt alluded to earlier, the before with the soot on the exterior, it's a stream. You got to have a fine atomization in the seventh injector to get that DPF to heat up properly for it to regenerate properly. And otherwise you get derated and now you're going 5 miles an hour and it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
And that's very common. I see it all the time.
And a wrecker. Or try to find somebody who knows what they're doing with the after treatment system.
So I've had a question.
Everybody's a mechanic, they can work on a motor, but nobody understands the after treatment system.
Bingo.
And that's where everything is taken care of. Either you make it or break it at that point.
So this has always made me wonder. So if you catch all that soot in a DPF for, let's say, a month or a week or whatever, and then you do a regen, and you burn it all out, and you guys have seen a truck regen, right? It looks like it's on fire.
Yeah.
Wasn't that all that smoke still going out in the atmosphere? You just held it in for 2 weeks, and now it's going out the window? I mean, right? Where is it going?
Truck's
They
got a
don't catch
stomach
it and
ache,
throw-
Kurt. You
Huh?
know? It's like a truck has a stomach ache, you know?
Yeah,
That's terrible.
yeah,
It's like holding in a bad fire, right, Kurt?
It's bad,
Yeah.
dude.
yeah. There you go. Yeah, send
Right
all
on.
those used DPFs straight to Washington.
Yeah.
Yep, here you go.
Get rid of
So he wanted to dig into this further. What was the root of the problem? Because we were working with him, and he took some samples from the bulk fuel. And this is from a lab in, this actually is from North Carolina, but so your limit on your particle count, 2,500 parts per milliliter. It came in at 14,000. It was 5 times the acceptable limit for particulate.
That was out of their bulk tank.
Yeah, that was from their bulk tank. Over 5 times the maximum allowable. Okay, well, whose responsibility is it to clean it up? Is it FedEx's or Freightliner?
And the funny thing is they were actually having that filtered and cleaned on a regular basis. Biodiesel up there, of course.
Well, they haven't increased the cleanliness specs in how long?
1957.
Yeah, the cleanliness specs in this country have not increased in 40-some years, 50 years. Yeah, because, at the end of the day, right, it's all profits. TA, Petro, everybody, they got to make their money. So it's incremental profits. So are they going to add extra filtration in? Is the terminal going to do it? Who's going to do it? It's up to the end user. It's your truck. That's how they look at it.
If you go on the FTC, you'll see the OEMs have sued the fuel companies, and the fuel companies have sued the OEMs because they just point the finger at each other, and who ends up holding the bag? It's not their fault.
Right, and don't get it. I mean, the EPA is mandated this, and everyone's scrambling to try to keep up. But is Cummins or Daimler, any of these, are they unhappy that you guys have to keep coming back to get your trucks looked at because the emissions keep falling out? I mean, they're profiting off of it, parts and service. So
That's why Cummins bought back all their dealerships from their outside entities.
So then we brought Jason up here from Midwest Logistics. They were having issues, and we'll let Jason take this part, but they were having issues with their trucks, and they got a hold of us. They didn't really know what to do anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much we started out, we had 30 Ottawa spotter trucks. And, if you deal with them, they don't ever get hot enough to regen on their own. So I was sending a guy out anywhere from 2 to 3 days out of a week, spending a whole shift regenning trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Just putting a Band-Aid on because we don't have spare trucks as far as the yard trucks go. And then if you do, you got to tow it there, you got to tow the other one back, you're thousands of dollars towing it. So, Kurt and Clint, they came in one day, and honestly, I didn't give them the time of day. I had heard the spiel numerous times about different additives. And then I started calling some of the people in the pamphlet they left me that had used their system. Since that day, what's it been, 3 years now? I have not regen a single Ottawa truck. I've had NOx sensors fail with electrical issues, and that's it. So.
Those spotters, I mean, they grab a trailer, they park it, they sit there.
Right, and the driver never shuts it off.
Right.
You know, he'll sit there and idle, his shift's 14 hours, he'll sit there and idle for 14 hours if he wants to. So that was a huge thing for us, you know, and estimated probably about $10,000 a month we were spending just going out and regenerating yard trucks.
At each location, right?
Yeah. You know, so I mean, you break that down in manpower, you know, everybody's short-staffed. So if you got a guy going out just regenerating trucks, he's not getting PMs done. You know, and then from there we expanded over to our Volvo fleet on our on-road trucks. We were in our Moorhead, Kentucky location. We had numerous trucks throwing fault codes. I mean, we were 5,000 plus codes a month for emissions and fuel systems. And after going through everything and putting the oil filter on as well as the fuel additive, after running for a couple months, we actually got a phone call from Volvo because they weren't seeing all the fault codes getting loaded to our uptime. And they wanted to know what we had changed.
Disconnected the communication or something, right?
Right. You know, and we explained to him what we had done. You know, I mean, fuel economy was not a big thing to us. You know, we did gain anywhere from 4 to 6 tenths on average with the trucks. But our main objective was the after treatment.
Because those trucks, they were running, what, Moorhead to Kansas City, and then they'd
Yeah.
sit in Mount Vernon,
Yep.
and they'd idle.
Yep.
Because they, you know, most of their trucks are day cabs.
Yeah, we run a lot of day cabs. We don't run any APU units. So any of our sleeper trucks, they idle. You know, if that driver's sleeping, it's idle. And we don't have them set to where you can bump them up either. So they're idling 700 RPM. You know, so you're building a lot of soot the whole time.
So yeah, we got started on that program, and all of a sudden, one of the reps from Volvo corporate
Yep.
called up Bobby and, "What did you guys do with those trucks?" He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, we were getting 5,000 plus fault codes at that Moorhead location. And after a few months into it, we weren't getting any fault codes. What'd you do? Did you delete them?" Because what they, you know, and that's coming from Volvo, like they don't know that you can actually get rid of these problems. I mean, so they really picked their brain, and Volvo contacted us and wanted to know what we were doing.
Yep.
What else have you noticed, Jason, with regards to sensors and issues with parts? I think you told us
You know,
in the past.
over time, you know, you get a brand new truck and your turbo, if you ever look at it, your turbo's set up to run from 10% to 90%. As you get towards exiting your warranty time, they release these updates that allow that turbo to start swinging further. Well, the whole time it's running, it's built a carbon ring from 10% to 90%. Well, then they open it up. Now you can go 5% to 95. Well, once it hits that carbon ring, your actuator locks up because it hits that carbon, and then you got to put a new turbo on. With the trucks that we started running this system on early in the life of you know, we never had that problem. They still have the same turbo on them now. They're 600,000 and 700,000 miles, auto warranty, and have had all the updates. I've also taken in some of our trucks that don't have it. If I start getting inlet NOx sensors, particulate matter sensor codes, I'll go out and manually add the fuel additive, and within a few days of adding it, you're back to no codes again. It'll start cleaning that sensor out. And you know, if you take and you pull your NOx sensor out and look at it, and you're not running any additive, you know, you'll notice it's got a lot of soot buildup and stuff like that. Put it back in, run it for a week to 2 weeks, and when you take it back out, you'll notice it's substantially cleaner.
So Bobby sent us a spreadsheet. I mean, the thing was like a mile long, and we dug through it with all these fault codes, and you imagine 5,000 fault codes. And we went through it, and we were looking at what's a emission-related or fuel-related issue, and you look at some of these, one I think that really sticks out, it says low or bad quality fuel. Bad quality or incorrect type of fuel. So the ECM is literally telling you the fuel is not good enough to run, because what you do, you know, you put kerosene kerosene or gasoline? No, you put diesel in it at the truck stop. And the ECM's literally telling you that it's a bad fuel quality, and that's what's causing it. Particulate matter sensors, debris on PM sensor or element, after treatment valve stuck open, damaged valve or stuck open, catalyst efficiency below threshold, DPF lost or is severely damaged or removed. They're literally suggesting maybe it was deleted, you know? So you look into the clues, and this is off the ECM, right? This isn't just a driver's opinion or our opinion. This is what the truck's telling us. And when we start to really dig into this, it was an eye-opener. Because Volvo contacted them and was like, what's different? What are you doing? Well, we just stepped up the minimum spec fuel and filtration on our trucks and made it nice, you know, and then what did you do with those day cabs when they come in? Sometimes they're giving you problems, right?
Yeah, those are the ones where, you know, you get an ox-centric code starts in, we start adding the fuel additive to them, and within a week to 2 weeks, you know, you're back to no codes, the truck's got power again, and it costs you a few dollars an additive versus $600 NOx sensors.
And then that terminal recently, was it Newcastle?
Yep, yeah, Newcastle, I just got them set up on the program as well. He was having regen issues, you know, every day, the same trucks. He started running it within about 3 days. He noticed a substantial change in how the trucks were. You know, he wasn't getting the codes. Drivers weren't complaining about loss of power, stuff like that.
So then we got Flint Trucking here, and he touched on it earlier,
Yeah.
but,
I sent that picture. I had gone out in the garage, and I said, what are we doing here? I thought we were pulling these apart to check them. You know, I said, why do we put new ones in? I don't understand. And they said, that's the one that just come out. I said, that can't be the one that just come out. That truck's been on the system for probably 6 months. So we were curious, like, you guys all see the pictures here that they were talking to before, after. I mean, our entire company is built on maintenance, and that's what Mr. Flint is all about. So we're real serious about maintenance part of it. And he's ASE certified heavy-duty diesel mechanic. He's the owner. He drives. We're pretty well-rounded, I think. We believed him. We believed the system. Like I said, my dad did it. He put it on.
One of our customers was in getting work done by you guys.
So I met these guys in Nashville, is how this all started. I'm busy, I don't have any time, I do operations. I was buzzing through the shop and we had this huge truck in, name of it, Sweet Dreams on the side of it. Green, white, chrome. See this huge tank on the back. And I asked this guy, I said, what's that? He said, that's my fuel additive. Okay, whatever. I went back and I went doing my thing, and I come back out and they had the hood on it up. Big old yellow thing that's round under the hood, and I asked him, I said, well, what's that about? And he said, that's my oil purifier. And I kind of chuckled like, no, really, what is that, you know? And he said, that's my oil purifier. I said, all right, now we're talking maintenance, let's hear this. What do you get? What is this? And he said, that cat right there will run clean oil at 12,000 miles. And I said, no, it can't. He said, yes, it does. That truck gets bugs on it, it's parked. I come back out after the bugs are gone, that thing will get over 7 miles a gallon. Okay? It's huge. Him and his wife and 3 dogs live in it. They were in there and we were working on the cat engine. And, okay, so now he's kind of intrigued me, but I've still got my things to do. I go back. I kind of put it out of my head. I didn't think any more about it. My wife and I were down to Nastic to the annual convention. They had a vendor showcase, and it's not nearly the size of this, but we walked in and kind of like, well, what are we going to look at? And I look over and I see the Clean Air Fleet sign in it, okay? I seen that on a big truck. A guy that owns that big of a truck, that clean of a truck, knows what he's doing. He's got to be business minded. There's no way he's getting the 9 to 10 mile of fuel that I am. So we go down and I said, I want to talk to these guys. My wife's like, yeah, okay. She drags behind me. We go down and I'm like, so what's this thing all about? They said, all right, I'll show you. And I said, kick this thing on. So we run through 2 Caterpillar filters. It's black as it can be. Hits his shot glass after a couple of minutes, it's black. I said, now, let's go through your side. And he runs it through the CAF 1 micron filter. Comes out and it's clear. And I said, okay, where's the trick? I want to see this thing. Like, this can't be. And he goes, oh, it can't be. Okay. Here's some carbon. You understand what carbon is, right? Throws 3, 4 more scoops in there. Dumps the oil out. We sit there and we're having a drink. And I said, all right, now let's try it. Kicks it out, sets it down. I said, that's the end of the story. Give me everything you have. I don't need to know any more. All I know is that works. So they give me all the pamphlets and everything, and they had just got, I guess, message from Glenn Rice on his Facebook. Glenn's out of Florida, and anytime he's in Michigan, we're his shop, and we were just adding on to our shop. Big, huge addition, and he had just posted it. So Clint had pulled up, he goes, you're from Michigan? Where at? And I said, we're out of Litchfield, a little tiny town. He goes, no, hold on. Pulls it up and he goes, this? I said, yeah, because we had this huge truck and it's chrome and green and white, and I think it was Sweet Dreams. I can't remember the guy's name. And he said, Glenn? And I said, yeah, Glenn Rice, that's him. He's a shorter guy, no hair, and he's got a wife and 3 dogs. And he pulled it up and said, is that your shop? I said, yes, that's our shop. So that's how we met.
Small world.
I took all the pamphlets home. We looked them over, and it was still like trying to convince home what it was. And so I took it over to my dad for Christmas, and I said, here's all the information. You need to do this. I talked to him. He gave Kurt a call, and it kicked off. Then from there, he uses our shop for all his maintenance. We put it on. We seen the results. We had all the oil results. From then, Ken says, let's get on the phone. Let's have a talk. We call him up, and we agree to 3 units a month. That way, what do we have to lose? We lose more in deadhead or silly things than what these 3 systems were going to run us. So we agreed, okay, instead of sponsoring a race car, let's try this out. So we try it out. At the end of the 3 units, we called them and we said, let's just do the rest of the fleet. Like, there's no reason to wait. The longer I wait, the more I'm going to lose.
You guys were you were in the Detroit 60s in those Pro Stars, right, with the Cummins, and then you were getting in the Cascadias at that time.
Right. We had just started into the Cascadias, and we were having inlet, outlet NOx issues. Like, what do? You change it, come back in a week later, and it says outlet. You follow the tree, you know, like Jason knows. You follow that tree and troubleshoot, and it leads you down to NOx sensor. Well, it can't be NOx sensor. We already did the NOx sensor. Well, we kept having these issues. We had a 1 box go out, which $10,000 later. We have some pre-emission trucks, all this good stuff. So we tried it. We started on it. We were doing the fuel additive. We started with putting all the dosers on every truck. They're on the back of every cab. A guy can do subtraction. He can add it to the tank. You just go behind at 720 minus however many gallons he fuels. 30 seconds. It's dumped in both tanks. He doesn't have to open it, drop $30 out on the ground, or spill it on the truck or himself.
Or in the cab.
In the cab.
Or sell it.
Yeah. We run into everything. So it just automatically goes right into the T, goes right in through the vents. It's treated. Everybody can understand it. It's really simple. And ever since we've been running that additive, I can say we have not had one driver do a regen.
A parked
I
regen.
haven't done a regen on mine. I run a 2013. She has 665,000 miles on it right now. I have had zero issues. I turned her 80,000 miles last year. Not an issue. I just had the shop yesterday dump the oil at 142,000 miles. Swear.
That's pushing it.
142,000 miles, that's what we dumped at.
Yeah.
That's as far as it would go. And we're not playing the contest of, well, let's try 150. Will it blow up if I go 200? That's not in our program. We can't replace the trucks. They're insane.
Yeah, they oil sample religiously.
We have a spreadsheet, so every 18,000 miles, we're throwing another oil filtration filter in. And I got to the point, you can automatically guess, till you get to about 60,000 on our Cummins, we're just throwing a filter in. I already know the sample's gonna be good, you know. Up at that point, that's when we start, I want you to start paying attention. I haven't had one fall below the 60,000 miles. So instead of an oil change, instead of tying my mechanics up, every 10,000 is a grease job. We used to do B services at 18,000. The new DD15s, we were doing 30,000. So every time my secretary would input all the mileages 3 times a week. And if it would trip, it goes to the service manager. Service manager gets with me, yanks the truck, does the service. B service, we deleted. I don't have a B service. I don't have an oil change slot anymore at a certain time. Each truck has its own. When that is, I don't know. It tells us. We just do the oil sample. We get the results back in a few days. And at that point, we know if we're dumping or we're going further. So it's really changed how we do maintenance as well. But as far as the emissions part of our maintenance, I've heard guys say they were pulling sensors every 15,000 miles and cleaning. So they were doing their
And you can't
sensor
really
cleanings.
clean a sensor, because once you get it in the parts washer, it's electronics.
Well, you
can't-
pull it out and you try to put it back in and try to reseal, and
Yeah.
I don't even want to touch it.
Yeah.
You know, I have no interest in even pulling them out.
No.
So we've been just running the additive, and like I said, I
You
don't
guys-
even
you
know
guys
how to
al-
regen my truck.
You guys also bought the filter cart to pressurize the PM, on the PM with the
Oh,
filter change
absolutely.
of service?
We have the
Positive
fuel
pressure.
sweep. We fuel sweep. So a truck comes in for, say, a grease job or our A service at 10,000 miles, goes in the tanks. We cycle the fuel out of the tank back through the filter back in. We sweep the tanks.
You guys ever have any asphaltine issues?
We haven't had any issues. I can tell you our older trucks that we, new to our fleet or whatever, when they first come on the program, from running this additive, you're gonna have a fistful of Davco fuel filters. Every truck we have, we put a Davco on. That way we can see. Who says the fuel filter is bad in 5,000 miles? It might be junk in 1,500, but you can't see through the metal. So that's the first thing that we do is throw a Davco on so we can see. Then we're not wasting a fuel filter if it didn't need it. But we're also not hanging on to one longer than we should have. So we're running that, but you get on this, you're gonna start plugging a fuel filter a week. And I was glad. That's great.
On a gummed up truck. Yeah.
So they're all gummed up. My dad, he got on that, and then he was running that 2014, and it was a filter a week, probably 8 or 10 weeks, and then nothing. So now his Davco just hangs right there. He's still got the spin on. It just hangs right there. I mean, and then he's got the CAF fuel filter on it as well. And I don't know. I don't know how you could get any better. With a 2000, he's running close to 3 million miles on it now. One overhaul.
Yeah, he never saw over 8 miles a gallon, and once he got in the program,
Right.
he's been getting over 8 pretty consistently.
Yeah, he's real religious.
So, we wanted to do, besides, you know, the testimony of our customers, which these guys are awesome customers, we're glad to have them. We want to do a little background on how, what this, you know, who's actually proven and studied this. And I mean, I can tell you Cummins, Daimler, GM, SAE, they've all studied this for years. You know, we didn't invent oil bypass. We just made it fit on today's trucks and work with today's trucks, right? We just made a better mousetrap, so to speak. But ours is bulletproof. You know, it's a good cost. It's a great value. But when you get in, so today's oil, right? So they thinned out the oil. They stripped all the additives out because of ash in the DPF. So, you know, on older trucks, you can run the old oil. On the new trucks, you're supposed to run the new stuff. Well, what they did is they sacrificed wear for efficiency.
Right.
You can't have both. You know, you can't have your truck not wearing out but get your fuel efficiency. So all the EPA and then, well, we got to get the max fuel efficiency. So they put lightweight oils in there. So what they're doing is they're sacrificing. And this study said they studied an engine with 12,000 hours on it, right, of service. And it actually, they monitored it. It was producing 6 times more emissions in the exhaust stream than a brand new motor. Well, okay, why is that? Well, first off, if an engine's burning oil, that's soot, that's ash, right? If it's burning oil, it's losing compression. You're losing horsepower, and you're losing fuel efficiency. Well, because people would ask us all the time, well, how does an oil filter add up to emissions or clean air? And, you know, that's the answer because of all the problems when you're getting all that carbon packing on the rings, you're burning oil, you're getting cross-contamination, and it's going out the stack, and it's going in the DPF. So, you know, that right there says that 6 times more exhaust on a 12,000 hour engine. So another question we get very often is, if it's so good, why doesn't Cummins put it on at the factory, right?
Right.
Why, if it's so darn good, then why isn't Cummins putting it on?
Because Cummins
Well,
loves the price of parts.
Cummins has shareholders. That's their number one objective. They got to make profit for those shareholders, right? How do they make profit? Service and parts, not on new trucks anymore, you know?
Like
So-
Jason says, you got what, the service,
Well, yeah, every dealership is made
sales.
particular way. You start at sales, you go to parts, you go to service, and then you go back to sales again. That's why they're all made that way. They're all one building. They all got 3 doors, and they keep you coming back.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well,
You
and
know,
then-
they don't want you running stuff like this for the simple fact that you won't be buying parts. Good friend of mine manages a Volvo dealership back in Ohio, and I've talked to him about it. They kind of want to put it on their lease and rental fleet, but they don't want to, because then people start asking questions about, well, hey, this truck that I rented from you had this on it. What is it? It's a loss in sales of parts to the dealership.
Yeah, we've literally had Peterbilt dealers, and not to pick on them, but just for instance, literally look us right in the face and said, I'd rather sell rebuild kits than sell your filter. Right to our face. I go, can you say that again? What do you mean? Well, I'd like to videotape it and put it up all over the internet about how you really feel about your
That
company.
was the last day we did business with them.
Yeah, that was that, you know, because and I get it. We don't line up. We don't align. They're the OE, we're the aftermarket. But this, when people ask, why doesn't Cummins put it on? This is from Cummins. This is from 2001. It's from a paper that they studied between bypass filtration and standard oil filtration. And what they're saying is 30 to 50 or 60% less wear on the top and bottom end of the motor, just between bypass and standard filtration. Okay, so they've published this, that there's that much less.
It's not very easy to find.
Yeah, and that's with 5 micron oil filtration. With 1 micron, we're seeing 80% less wear in a motor. Another loss of horsepower translates directly to loss in fuel economy, like I said earlier. So this study, they ran these engines for a long period of time, basically a whole life cycle.
Right.
And the severely worn engine, so one, they were changing the oil at 12,000 miles. The other one, they were changing it at 25,000 miles because they wanted to see what does that do. And the severely worn engine had 365 horse at the wheels, and the other one had 300 horse. It had lost 18% horsepower. Okay, so that's, you lose horsepower, you're going to lose efficiency. So, you know, because as the engine wears out, it's just, you know, the valve train, you know, everything, you're losing, your timing's off. I mean, pressure's off, it's not running the way it's supposed to be, just because of dirty oil. And the funny thing is, you know, the OEs will tell you, go 60,000 miles on your oil change. You're fine. The oil's great. Go 60. In fact, go 160.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and
If you're above this fuel mileage, you're allowed to go up to like 100 or whatever, you know.
yeah,
You
change
do
oil
3
once a
oil
year.
changes and you're doing a rebuild.
So, you know, in fact, we have a friend of ours that's pretty high up in the Cummins rankings, and he told us flat out, he goes, the guys that are having the problems are the ones that are going 50, 60,000 miles, just like we told them.
Well, the
guys
standard
that aren't
ones,
are the old school guys going 10 to 15,000 miles because they were stuck in their ways. Well, Jim's dad, he was completely stuck in his ways, which is fine because he's successful. He's doing what he's doing. He was at 12,000 miles, and we would send him samples and he'd go, okay, fine, I'll go to 20. You know, and then not too long last year, he's like, okay, fine, I'll go to 30. I'm like, you told him, if you're going to dump that oil, give it to me and I'll put it in my pickup.
Yeah, I can reuse it. It's still fine.
Because
There's
it's
nothing
still
wrong
clean.
with it.
Yeah, quit throwing it away.
He's
Dad.
stuck on, we run Kendall. So my shop is all Kendall oil. And if we've run Kendall for years, we're going to continue running it. For what it gives us and the price, we can't beat it. So Dad, he'll come over and he's a Shell guy and he needs Rotella and whatever. He'll bring it, we'll put it in. And we're like, just get on the Kendall. You know, let's let us put the Kendall in there. So we do, and it's not long. He said, oh, it's all black. Yeah, that's kind of the way it goes, you know. He said, well, it stinks. I said, yeah, it should. It's one of the only oils running a liquid titanium. You know, you don't have that in Rotella. It does smell different. But he can't get past that, so he's the guy at 12,000 miles, whether it's clear or not, he's got to go. He's just stuck on that 12. So now we've got him up to 30, and he's been on this for how many years now, Kurt? You know, like.
Yeah, he's like a new man.
So he's still stuck at that threshold. We've got him to 30, but he's still got
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, his oil
Oil
looks great.
samples.
I tell him, you know, Jim, we can get you to 40, we can get you to 50. He's like, oh, no, never gonna happen. You know, and then another thing that we do is we got premium spec diesel. So we're taking a number 2 spec diesel and turning it into a premium spec. And like we were talking about earlier, the cetane rating is the biggest component. Another thing is lubricity. No one talks about it because that happened way back in 2007. They should have figured that out by now. You know, and then you got to handle water. When the common rail engines came out, you know, these old additives that would take water and disperse it so you could burn it. When common rail came out, the OE said you cannot do it because what will happen is that water will get in there and it's going to blow injector tips off because it gets basically turned to steam and blows the tips off, right?
Yep.
So, you know, the fuel that you're getting for $5 or whatever a gallon today, I mean, they keep raising the price, but the quality is going down.
We feel since the pandemic, with all the reduction in usage and demand, all those reserves were sitting out in the Gulf for, what do you think, Jason, a couple of years?
Oh, probably at least.
So what's happening? Oxidation. Every tank is vented, no matter if it's a 5-gallon tank or a 50,000-gallon tank. Every tank is vented. So it's atmospheric pressure. You got humidity coming in. You got dirt coming in. So that's how it happens, right? And then you're going to transport it from that tanker over to the next truck. There's a pump, so there's metal. Now you got oxidation again. So no matter what you do, you can't get away from it. And that's why we're preaching what we preach. You can control what you got.
Biodiesel, you know, you guys, obviously, everyone loves putting biodiesel in their truck because it runs so great.
Yeah.
You know, Illinois, they're mandated. Minnesota, right by us, they're mandated.
And biodiesel increases the NOx.
Right. Biodiesel is proven to increase NOx. And what we found out, so 20% is the limit on the biodiesel in a lot of places. And I'm not going to say who, but there was a big fuel distributor, and they were actually blending it upwards of 30% because they get kickbacks, subsidies for blending bio. So instead of 20, let's just put 30%. And who's gonna check it?
And if it's under 5, they don't have to tell you at all.
Right. So, you know, there can be upwards of 20, 30% bio running through it, and you may or may not know that. I know a lot of our customers down in Illinois, they have more problems. Minnesota, they have more problems. And it's bio-related. And what it does is it attracts water, it degrades, you know, paraffin build up, all that stuff.
And Kurt, you didn't touch on either your, the fuel additive for the winter blend.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't talked about that, but we were running trucks up into Minnesota. Ken himself was running up there with his Western Star and 30 below without the wind chill, you know. No issues on your guys' additive. And that was what really set him. He said, I'm going to run that route. We have a weekly run up there for a customer up Hibbing, Minnesota, up to Northern Foundry. And so he was running up there, and we didn't have any issues. And one night he said, you know what, I'm not even going to shut it off. I can't do it. So he let her idle, and no regen. You know what I mean? At that temperature, we should have had something if we were going to have something. We've run into nothing. So I guess that's the other part of your fuel additive, I guess, I wanted to touch on was the winter portion of it, you know.
The gelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's no gelling,
Yeah.
nothing.
We're located in Wisconsin. We have a lot of customers in the upper Midwest, and, you know, if we didn't have a good anti-gel component in our winter, so we got two, we have summer and winter. That's it. We don't have, like, a lot of additives, they'll have 12 different products, one's cetane, one's this and that. And if you added them all up to get the full benefit, you might be paying who knows what, a gallon. We never believed in that theory. We want to give you all the benefit you need for what the fuel's missing today. And, you know, anti-gel is a big component in it.
What's the price difference between the summer and the winter?
It's the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, the treatment.
Ours is
everything's
always the same. It just tell you if I want 4 or 5 drums of fuel additive, I want winter blend, or if we're switching back to summer, or I just finished the winter out on the fleet, and then we'll switch, you know. It's all the same. None of it's done anything different to us. You know?
Based on the temperature, we blend it.
Yeah.
So, just a quick, does anybody have any questions about anything? Go ahead.
We just talked to an oil guy. When we told them we have 2 micron bypass filter.
It strips out the additives.
Yeah, I mean, so like,
BS.
really trying to do something that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. I knew what you were gonna say, because
Yeah.
that's the first thing they ever say. It strips out the additives. Yep, you can't
Sales
do it.
pitch.
You know why they don't like us, right?
Yeah, 'cause we cut their oil. We cut
Bingo.
their oil sales. Like, got them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they can lie to people every day, but we don't.
No, we don't strip out additives. Well, your additive. No, it doesn't, because additive is in solution. It's liquid. Right,
Bingo.
it's in solution. If your additive is a particulate, we go to 1 micron, right? So we're not pulling out any additive.
Jim would not continue to run, Jason would not continue to run our program.
Couldn't afford
It's a
to.
good question.
If it took, it is a great question, because that's what they all say.
Yeah.
No, I
No,
understand,
no.
great question.
That's
Great
good to
question.
hear, though, you know.
Thank-
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
That's a good question, too.
What year trucks?
So we've had guys that lease trucks. Everybody's different, right? Everybody's got different duty cycles, different mindset. But we had a guy up in Fort Wayne, he was leasing some Mack trucks, and they were doing the oil changes, so he didn't he didn't want to do the oil side, but he did the additive tank. Same story, kind of. He was running these trucks, his drivers are driving them, and the company calls him up and said, "What's going on with those trucks? What did you do?" He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, did you delete them, or what did you do? We're not getting these codes." He was running the additive. But to answer your question, I mean, everybody's a little different. One guy might just do the oil, one guy might just do the fuel.
I've got some trucks that have the full system. They're Volvos. Then I've got other trucks where I just dump the fuel additive in.
It's a tough one.
If you're not doing the full program, the trucks that we've got in Moorhead, Kentucky, the Volvos with the full program, fuel mileage, you notice a dramatic difference. The ones that I'm just dumping the fuel additive in manually, you might see 1 or 2 tenths of an increase, maybe up to 3 tenths. The other ones you're seeing upwards 6, 7 tenths.
So I think
That's
on
the
my
biggest
part
thing.
of it, I don't know, Jason probably had the same thing, but if you want to see numbers immediately to satisfy whatever craving you have, the oil is going to be immediate. That's going to be something you visually see immediately. And I'm sure he can
Yep.
say the same thing as me.
Yep.
If you've got 11,000 miles on your oil, I would say get the system on it at 11, and if you dump at 12, don't dump at 12. Sample at 12. Give it 1,000 miles on that filter. I guarantee you, you will be cleaner at the 12 with 1,000 miles on it than you were at the 11, you know what I'm saying? It's going to clean it. So if you dump the oil, you start fresh, you're guaranteed at least one extra oil change. But if you want, however a guy is geared, guys are geared differently mechanically, they get it or they don't get it, or some guys just get it. Some of them don't, they don't understand it. You start on the additive, it's the same thing as the oil, you're saving today. You're saving big time today. But you're not going to see the numbers if that's what you want to see immediately, because you don't know what it costs until that truck breaks down. Run the additive, if it breaks down 2 years, or you have your first emission issue 3 months from now, you're going to go, this shit doesn't work. Yeah, but what if you weren't running it? You would have had that issue tomorrow.
Well, I got another good point. So as you're cleaning out the system and flushing it, going through filters, you're gonna, see that increase. We'll get a call on a Friday afternoon. Hey, send out a drum or send out 5 gallons, right? Whoa, it's already 7 o'clock, buddy. You're gonna have to wait till Monday. Well, what happened? Well, I ran out of additive. Okay, what happened? Well, my fuel mileage dropped off because that, it's just like if you're running, let's say you have a pickup and you're running premium or regular or E85. I've done it myself, and I run E85, boom, mileage drops off.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't it kind of trick the ECM for a little while? Because the BTU's not there, right? The energy. So the truck's going to realize that immediately.
Yeah,
the ECM
really
smarter
immediately.
than us, So it's like, oh,
The fuel trims and everything are constant.
Yep.
They're constant. So if it's not there, it's compensating, the bigger swings.
So it's not like one of those things they call, oh, use a fuel injector every once a month. It's not that kind of setup. It's like you want to get a premium spec diesel and keep it there.
And Kurt, we've been running less than, 2 cents a mile is what it breaks down to. You can take the initial cost, break it per gallon. I don't know what fuel mileage your trucks are getting, if you're getting 4 miles a gallon, it's going to cost more per mile than mine at 9. I have fleet trucks getting up over 9. And these are fleet drivers, they're not me. I'm running anywhere from 8.5 to 9.1 with my 2013. At 665,000, she just rolled over yesterday.
Now, Jim, didn't you guys get some new DD15s in, like new to you, with like 100,000 miles on them, right?
Yeah, we were
And they
buying-
didn't have the program, but you had a fuel pump fail right away. But you have DD15s that have had...
I've had pump failures on a truck that had 50-some thousand miles on it. It barely was used. It's a Western Star that Ken Flint drives himself. It had a lot of issues. It had some wiring issues. It had this pump failure. It does not, we didn't have the fuel filter on it yet. I've had trucks that we got new to us, 200,000 to 300,000 pump failures.
Immediately, almost.
Immediately. I have one that we bought from, it's out of Michigan. They do a leveling valve, an automated one. It's got a couple buttons on it. It was their show truck or whatever. We bought that. Thought, hey, we're going to try this out. One drive axle, one coaster axle. It's going to be it. We put the fuel filter on that. No issues. You know what I mean? So I've had them fail prior to, and I've had nothing fail after we've been on it. But I've had these trucks with one drive axle, one coaster axle, and I have a manual 10-speed getting better fuel mileage than the one with the coaster axle. You know?
Well, it's hard to prove something when you can't do two things simultaneously, right? You can't drive the truck and have the twin. But we actually did do that. That FedEx fleet, they had a truck that went from St. Paul to Rockford and back, right? Every day, dropping hook, 2 trailers, one down the road after the other. Same weather, same route, everything, fuel. And they left one as a control truck and one they set up with the entire program, and it was about a half to 3/4 mile difference. No check engines, no D rates, nothing. The other truck just kept running like they always do. You know, everyone just is, you know, they want to give up on it. And people just think this is too good to be true. If it's that simple, I can't
Why
believe
wouldn't
it.
everybody be doing
Why
it?
wouldn't everybody be doing it? Well,
Right.
there's a lot of people, we've been doing this for a long time. You can't make it this long in the truck industry selling crap. You
When
know,
fuel's cheap, nobody listens.
you know, right.
Fuel
well,
price rises, now they're starting to pay attention. We have a problem.
We
How
started
do we
in,
fix it? Can
we
you guys-
started in '04 and people looked at us like we were aliens. Like, you guys are idiots.
What do you mean? They still do.
You know, but at the end of the day, that FedEx fleet on the DD15s, that technician, Corey Jensen, is one of the smartest guys I've ever met in the industry regarding working on these trucks. He taught us, he said, bring your camera up, I want to show you something. Don't look at the truck, don't look what's on it, just get in. He brought it up to temperature. This is a cylinder cutout test, if you guys are familiar with Detroit. And he goes, now record this. And he goes, son of a bitch, that driver's not doing it right. I go, what do you mean? He goes, if he's not doing it next week, he'll be gone. And he goes, I can tell, based on the numbers, 0's perfect. Now you got 6 injectors, right? 0's perfect, positive is rich, negative is lean. And he's got a control truck, -21, -11, 7, 3, and 2. The test truck, he goes, now this is 0, 0, 0, 3, and 6. He goes, those are a mere truck of each other. Those injectors are performing like new. So if you guys have the capability to do that kind of diagnostic, you can see it real quick. I didn't know you could do that. Kurt and I didn't know that. But, you know, anyway, that's pretty cool. You can go right in the ECM, the information's there.
Any other questions you guys got? Yeah. By keeping soot out or what?
I would say I would have to dare to say it's going to, just for the fact of you're going to be burning cleaner, which is going to be, you know, less car.
You guys want to come by the booth and we'll just continue this because these guys need to get the next people in, okay? Thanks for coming, everybody. We appreciate you.